I am Pat Bailey, and I'm Associate Director of Training at Out and Equal and your moderator for today's call. And we're in our February 2012 call already. And this is a monthly series that's part of our Out and Equal vision to provide free educational series on topics for and about the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community and workplace issues. If you'd like an electronic or hard copy of today's slides, we'll send out a link for that. We're currently on slide 2. If you need to leave earlier or if you would like to listen to some past town calls, we do make all our town call presentations available at our website as recorded webinars a few days after the call, and you'll have that link. Before we get started, let me do a couple of announcements here. These are some of our upcoming events that we'll have. March 1st is our deadline for our Global Workplace Summit, LGBT Workplace Summit, our request for proposals for workshops. There's information up on the website that you can go and get that information. Coming up March 12th through 14th, we have our Executive Forum, followed by our Gala Dinner on the 14th. If you are an executive, C-suite executive, emerging leader, or an executive sponsor, please contact us and sign up for this networking opportunity and some educational inputs that you can get about being out as an executive. Also coming up next month on our town call, we'll have a special with Bob Wittick on LGBT marketing. And then we have coming up on April 1st the Summit Workplace RFPs. That's our Baltimore Summit. That'll be in October. And then you see the Global Summit and the October Summit in Baltimore. I want to put out a little plug for CareerLink today, since we are talking about coaching and job development. And there's a lot of tools that you can find on CareerLink for all aspects of your job hunting if you're making a career change or just looking for professional development. It's free for you to enroll as a user, and there's approximately 8,000 users on the site, and you can connect with them online on the site. And on average, there's about 50,000 jobs that are posted. If you're a company and would like to post jobs or interested in sponsoring on CareerLink, you can contact Julie Beach. Her email address is there for you to contact. So it's a great opportunity no matter where you are in your career development and stages with that. On the webinar today, you should be listening through your speakers and your headsets. If you still can't hear the webinar, do send us a chat message and we'll give you a call-in number. If you are hearing an echo on the call, you may have signed in twice, so close one of your screens and that should resolve that. If you're hearing delays or hearing short pause or streaming video, you can stop your session for about 10 seconds and then restart. And if you have any problem at all, go ahead and chat in your questions through the chat bar, and you can type the information in here, and you can then hit the send button, and we will see that. The presenters see that. If you have any technical problems, you can also raise your hand up here so that we can come and chat with you. Q and I will be able to contact you. And we will do some polls during this call. So when you get to that point, you want to make sure that you hit the answer, and then you hit submit so that we can see the responses to go through there. Again, the session will be recorded, so if you miss any part of it, you'll be able to listen to it after the call. So today we are going to be talking about the workplace and about mentors and coaches and the best way to manage your career. And what does it mean to have a coach, and what should you expect? And then a question comes up, we hear a lot about coaching and mentoring and what the difference is there. So today's call will help make you a better consumer and help you decide what's the best course for your career and embarking on that adventure in career development. We're also going to look at how being LGBT fits into the equations. And our presenters have extensive experience as coaches and will share their insights and best practices today. So we'll be able to get into their presentation in just a moment, but I want to make sure that we get a couple polls in here. So let's see where you are in the audience. And if you click, if you can, if you work in HR, in a corporation, as an executive in the C-suite, as an entrepreneur, in the government, or in a nonprofit. Hit submit and put your questions in there. And Q, I see a couple folks are having problems hearing on the call, so why don't you send them some numbers? Thanks. We can see on the call we have about 47 participants on the web at this point, and we have about 8% that are in HR, about 61% that work for a corporation. We do have a few executives, about 3% there. Entrepreneurs, about 10%, 11%, and nonprofit we have about 26%. So we've got a good mix here in this call, and we'll give everybody just a couple more seconds here to answer and take a look at where we are. So we have primarily corporations, and it's good to see the entrepreneurs out there as well. Let's take a little more look and try to understand who else is on the call and where you're coming from. So who else is in the room? Do you know, and here you can select all that apply. Do you know about coaching? You've worked with a coach before. You're currently working with a coach. You are a professional coach. You have coaching in your job description. Feel like that you're doing coaching job work and want to learn more. So again, hit submit, and you'll be able to get the responses there. And it looks like coming up right now, we've got about 45% or so that we've got about 39 answers in. So about 53% of you know what coaching is. You've worked with a coach before, and about 23%. Working presently with a coach, about 10%. We have some professional coaches in the audience, about 5%. You have coaching in your job description, about 12%. Feel like that you're coaching now, whether formally or informally, about 21%, and want to learn more about coaching, 76%. So I think we're set to go with that, and we've got lots of energy and interest in this. So let me go ahead and turn it over to our presenters and talk about what's coming up next. And so Terry and Lynn have extensive experience. So Terry, let me turn it over to you. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. So the title of our presentation today is Coaching, what it is not, and why every LGBT leader can benefit from working with a coach. There are three of us that have created this presentation, myself, Lynn Dismore, and Tim Kincaid. Today you'll be hearing from Terry and Lynn. Tim is actually on a cruise, so he's enjoying himself and wasn't able to dial in from the ship. So we'll send him our regards. Our objectives today are, number one, giving you a clear picture of what coaching is as well as what it's not, and how it differs from mentoring, counseling, therapy, or training. And there's oftentimes a lot of overlap between those three or four topics, so we'll be able to really differentiate those. Next, what to expect during a typical coaching session, as well as what coaching focus might be best for you. There's lots of specializations in coaching, including executive leadership, life, and many others. So we'll be talking about each of them and how you might choose a coach that fits you the best. Next, how coaching may especially benefit LGBT folks with career enhancement. And then lastly, how to find your perfect coach. And here's a hint. You may want to find a coach who's also LGBT. So I'm going to turn it over to Lynn to talk a little bit about what coaching is and what it's not.
Hi, everyone. This is Lynn, and I wanted to share with you that coaching is pretty young as a profession. It started in the 80s. Prior to that, it probably was called more advising or consulting, but wasn't known as coaching itself. In the last 10 years, you could say, it really emerged as a strong profession. There's a lot of different perspectives to coaching and different format and ways that people have labeled it. So you can you hear about business coaching, leadership coaching, executive coaching, and now with the International Federation of Coaching, it can be professional coaching, but it can also be life coaching. And it has a lot of different areas that are now using coaching, such as ADHD coaching. It is, you have quite a lot of different organizations trying to form around regulation and licensing for coaching. So to start off with the International Federation of Coaching, but there's a lot of others also, board certified coaching that's also happening right now. You have other international I think there's an international consulting psychology or coaching psychology, a new organization that just formed that's also international. And also you have countries that are putting in place specific regulation and licensing around coaching. But because it's still a new profession, this is all in the process of developing. What's different in terms of LGBT leadership coaching? There's certain questions that come, and I'd like to separate the L from the G from the V to and the T at this point, that for specific diversities, there are specific needs and questions that may come up. Something just for LGBT is about all the question of being out or not being out. Questions about identity and also self-management around identity. Those are the kind of things that can be part of the conversation when you're getting coached professionally or around your career. And for some LGBT individuals, some of you may prefer having an LGBT coach exactly because they will have experienced some of what you're experiencing in your profession. But I'll be open about this at this point. Some LGBT may prefer a straight coach. So there's it really comes back to the client and what the coachee, the client, would find supportive in their own development. Next, in terms of what coaching is, let's change our slide here. One of the things that coaching is usually set up in the contract that coaching is confidential between the coachee and the coach. Definitely if it comes through your organization, there are times where HR or the supervisor will also take part in the conversation in terms of setting up goals and agreement on goals. But in terms of the conversation between the coachee and the coach, that is confidential. It's a continuous process of client growth in terms of awareness and responsibility. And I can't emphasize enough the awareness part. Their new knowledge about how someone is being perceived can be so impactful in realizing that certain behaviors are not helping the person succeed, and or also that certain strengths are really valued from that coachee. So awareness all around that it's around strengths or development opportunities. And in terms of the process and the growth, the responsibility stays within the client to want to move forward and grow and change and tackle their strengths and their development opportunities. It's an ongoing dialogue between the coach and the coachee. It's client-centered. The focus is all on the client and their needs. It's action-oriented, and that's where Terry will tell us more about this as we move along. It's action-oriented and focused on achievement, which is why it differs from other forms of dyads. Coaching is usually you have a set of goals, and by the end of it, you want to see some results around those goals. Now, in terms of what coaching isn't, it is not part of the job performance feedback or rating, especially not the rating. It is part of development plans, but not performance feedback. It is not advice or consultation. It is coaching. It is manager-driven, and that's an interesting concept. I mean, it can be the supervisor can have a development plan conversation with his coachee, but the supervisor can act as a coach. But the goal is that it is the client drives the process. It is not about the coach, it's about the coachee, and it's not passive, not validation, and it is not about fixing people. Now, in terms of the benefits and outcomes, there are many, that it's increasing your range of flexibility, your effectiveness, your capacity to manage an organization. And I'll spend a little more time on it's about improving clients' psychological and social competencies. That one is really, really important in terms of emotional intelligence, increasing tolerance of ambiguity, increasing the client's awareness and knowledge of his or her motivation, learning group dynamics, decrease any acting out of emotions or unconscious conflicts, improve the client's capacity to learn and grow, improve the client's stress management skills, and stress hardiness. If we go on to number 4, ability to manage self and others, client's ability to manage his or her career, to manage tensions between organization, family, community, industry, and personal needs, and to improve the effectiveness of the organization or team. Now, Terry, if you want to take over at this point.
All right, thank you, Lynn. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the phases of coaching and how this develops over time. So you may have not experienced coaching yet, so we're trying to give you a sense of what the process would look like. It starts with contracting, and contracting is just what it says. It's about developing a usually written, but at least verbal agreement between the coach and the client. And you may also have the agreement including HR or your manager or whoever would be funding the program that you're engaging in. And the goal of developing this agreement is to establish a focus and the goals for the coaching effort. What do you hope to accomplish? Making a commitment of time. How often will you meet? Will it be a 6-month program? Will you meet weekly, monthly? Also, what commitment will there be from other resources? Is the manager going to be involved? Will HR be involved? You may even choose to include other stakeholders in giving you feedback throughout the process. Also, you want to identify and agree on the methods for coaching. Will you be coaching face-to-face or via virtual video, such as Skype or GoToMeeting? Any of those details are usually nailed down in the contracting. And then, of course, thinking about confidentiality, like Lynn has already discussed, what are the limits of confidentiality if you're working with a group of people? Who will be involved and how will they be updated on your progress? And then lastly, agreeing on payment terms. Will you be using a credit card or will it be a lump sum payment up front? And of course the price that both parties are willing to work with. So that's really about contracting, and all of that happens usually within the first week or 2. The second phase is really about building rapport. Rapport is really critical in any coaching relationship. The coach and client need to feel comfortable in opening up their lives and sharing information, which is why confidentiality is so important. And one of the ways that happens is beginning to think about what can the coach provide to the coachee, and what level of openness is the coachee willing to share. So rapport building can occur oftentimes with an initial face-to-face meeting, and then if it's a long-distance relationship, continuing via video. The third piece is really around assessment. So bringing in information that will give the client some insight into what's going on in terms of their own behavioral styles, conflicts that might be going on, personality types. And 360 feedback is also very common for workplace coaching and leadership coaching. which basically means you ask a group of stakeholders to provide answers to a predetermined set of questions. And these might be interviews done by the coach. They may be written, formal, computer-based programs that provide 360 feedback. But the importance is that you oftentimes will get a clear picture of how others perceive you and your performance. So it can be a really powerful experience and eye-opening for any client that is interested in learning more about how others perceive them. So the fourth phase is around creating awareness. The assessment work feeds into step 4, where creating awareness is really about identifying and working with emotions, identifying and managing any resistance or defenses or operating issues or problems that might be happening, as well as identifying and managing conflicts within a larger organization, in working relationships, as well as what's been said and unsaid, revealing the unknown and making that known, putting the issues on the table. We use feedback and disclosure and other communication techniques to maximize that effect. So creating awareness is a really core benefit of coaching. And then step 5 is around designing actions. As Lynn mentioned, coaching is all about action and results. So it's really important to have an action plan that will enable you to reach your goals in a specific time frame, and having measurable actions so you can track progress against your goals. And that leads us to the last phase, which is managing progress and accountability. One of the great things about having a coach is that you have someone asking you and really providing a forum on how you're doing and what progress you're making, and holding you accountable to reaching your goals by following through on your actions. And then also providing a sounding board for you to learn from from the actions you've taken to date. Also, managing progress and accountability includes formal feedback, oftentimes a check-in with manager or HR or other stakeholders to see what they're noticing around your progress. Oftentimes that can be interviews that the coach conducts with those folks, or written feedback from specific questionnaires. So this is a basic 6-stage process. You'll see some models include up to 8 stages, but these are the basic phases that any great consulting or coaching program will go through. So let's talk a little bit more about what to expect during a specific coaching session. I'm going to be sharing with you what's called the TGROW model, which stands for topic, goals, reality, options, and way forward. So in any given session, you may go through most or all of these phases. So the first piece is agreeing on what are we going to discuss today. The client is the person who brings the topic as opposed to the coach. So the client will come with a specific area they want to work on. Maybe it's improving a relationship, or developing a better communication plan, or thinking about their career options. Any of those are common topics you might find in coaching. Then given that topic, what specific goals does the client have around that topic? What would it look like if you were successful? Let's share a vision of maybe a year or 2 from now, or even 6 months from now, what you would like to ideally be doing and behaving. It helps you know when you've achieved that goal, and it also gives you that sense of measurement of how you would track progress against your goal. The second phase is thinking about reality. Well, where are you now? Now that we've got a vision of where you want to go, describe your current situation. What's happening now? What have you tried before? What's been successful? What's not worked? All of those are really around understanding the basic reality of where you're at in that particular topic. Of course, options are the next step, where we begin to brainstorm with the client how you might be able to reach your goals. This may include research, looking at the internet. It could be brainstorming. It could be asking mentors, which oftentimes work along with coaching to determine what's worked in your organization before, or with people in similar situations as you. But thinking about a long list of potential options, and then beginning to rate them on which of those do you believe you would want to pursue or try. and developing different experiments that enables you to really try those options in a safe environment. Options may also include doing role plays with the coach or beginning to document your success as you try different things, which leads us to really the last step of way forward. This is where the accountability and action takes place. So it's great to have a list of various options, but which of those are you going to actually commit to? And during what time frame will you commit to those? And then how will you know if you're successful? You know, what will you do to evaluate your success? And then during the next session, the client would bring back their experiences in taking those steps and reporting on progress, which again is part of the accountability. So thinking about what type of coaching focus might be best for you. As Lynn mentioned earlier, there's a lot of different specializations that various coaches have and specific training that enables them to be successful with different types of clients. So we're just going to briefly look at a small handful of the many different specializations. The first being executive. So executive coaching really is designed for people at director level or above that are responsible for an organization. And typical topics you might see in executive coaching would be strategy development, cultural change, managing mergers and acquisitions, managing boards if you deal with a board of directors, whether you be a profit or nonprofit organization, as well as other leadership issues that may come up at that level. The second big category that's very common is leadership coaching. Leadership coaching can be for anyone at any level in an organization, including individual contributors. Leadership really has to do with understanding how to motivate and lead others, how to direct and manage folks' work that may report to you, or maybe dotted line to you, or even part of a team. Providing feedback on others' performance is a core piece of leadership, as well as setting a vision and getting folks enrolled in your vision. The third big category of coaching is life coaching. Life coaching generally deals with issues that are not necessarily work-related. They may include such things as parenting or how to find a partner, dating. There are dating coaches, divorce coaches, folks that are wellness coaches, helping you with exercise and diet, weight loss coaches, image management coaches. All of those are generally in the category of life coaching. Team and group coaching is an up-and-coming growing field where groups of people can get together around a similar topic. Let's say that you wanted to learn more about managing or establishing an employee resource group. A group coaching experience may be a really good way to grow in that area. Not only do you work with a coach who facilitates the team, but you also learn from the other participants that are also interested in the same goals that you have. Team coaching is similar in that you're still working with a group of folks, but the team has a common goal that they all are responsible for and need each other to coordinate and collaborate with. So team coaching tends to occur within organizations where a coach will come in and work with that team to improve their performance, oftentimes working on issues such as planning, communication, conflict management, and reaching goals. Then as I mentioned earlier, there's a long list of other highly specialized roles. ADD coaching, attention deficit disorder coaching, is a common field now, given the challenges that so many folks have around ADD. Career coaching, relationship coaching, stress management is another form of coaching where helping people to better manage their workload and come up with techniques to deal with stress of our everyday life. Gender identity and transition coaching, time management, change management, and employee resource group coaching. So you can actually look at the International Coach Federation website and find probably up to 100 different specialties along these lines. But this is just a brief sampling of things that certainly relate to LGBT folks. So we mentioned earlier that coaching is especially effective for career enhancement. we'd like to talk a little bit more about how that may play out for you. So many folks, when they're coming out of college, are looking and exploring different vocations, or perhaps you've been downsized and want to try something new. So there are different assessments that coaches can provide around helping you understand your interests, and then exploring what vocations, number one, have demand, and that intersect with your interests and your current abilities. So exploring and choosing a vocation is important. And then moving into something as practical as getting a job. How do you choose an employer? How do you refine your interviewing skills? How to write a resume that will get an employer's attention? How to deal with bios and questions that might come up. All of those things are very common in career coaching. Managing identity is a special, strong, specific thing that LGBT people have to do, such as coming out every day or not. When do you, how much to share, how much to disclose about your personal life, and especially during an interview or during the first 90 days of a job. Is it safe to come out, and how do you know it's safe to come out? When is the right time to come out? Coaches can help you with that. Managing a gender transition, whether you're doing this on a job or in between jobs, there are lots of specific things to consider around gender transition management, and hiring a coach that's experienced in this field can really help with all the different things that may come up. Looking at developing an encore career. And what we mean by encore career is a lot of folks now are finding themselves moving from their primary career into maybe a new area. I personally have had 5 different careers, myself moving from engineering to management to IT, now to an entrepreneur. And each one of those transitions, a coach can really be a great support. I found that to be true for myself. Workplace activism and career development. Knowing what level would you like to be an internal activist, and how do you manage that with your day job? How do you make sure that you have allies on your side that will support you in doing your activism? Next, climbing the organizational ladder or lattice. And the lattice is a new term, which means we don't always move straight up the ladder. We may choose to do lateral moves to develop new areas of our leadership and experience. Thinking about strategically, what does it make sense as your next step? How do you build a support network of others that will support you in working on your career movement? Lastly, starting a business, becoming an entrepreneur. Many of you may currently, as we saw in the poll, are in corporations. You may have aspirations to start your own business, like Lynn and I have done, as well as Tim Kincaid. And moving into that entrepreneurial world is something a coach can be great support in, understanding how to sell and market yourself. So I'm going to hand it back over to Lynn to talk about how to choose a coach.
Yes. So things to consider when you're looking for a coach. If you're in corporate, but I'd say even in nonprofit, you may want to look for somebody that's done coaching in corporate already or in nonprofit. For some of you, you may want to be looking for a LGBTQA coach. You may want some information about how long they've been coaching, where they've been coaching, who they've been coaching, what's been their career. There's some people that when they look for a coach, they want somebody that's been, that's also worked in corporate or in nonprofit or in business before, while others prefer somebody with a psychological background or a consultant background. The type of coaching they do, you want to understand, do they do only executive? Do they do executive and leadership? Do they do leadership and career? Does their coaching cross across executive and life coaching? How they coach. A lot of coaching in these days is done by phone. Some people are doing it with new technology also, Skype. still a lot of coaching is done in person. Some people and some group coaching or consulting coaching firm will have coaches in all the big cities across the U.S. and some even small cities and across the world for the company that are looking for coaches. Let's say if your own company is global and you're looking for coaches globally. And how do they coach? Do they coach group coaching or just individual coaching? Same thing with assessment. There's some companies that already have a 360 assessment that they're using, while others don't and are open to the coach bringing their own 360 assessment. There's also companies, nonprofits, that offer a variety of personality assessment also. So for some people in choosing a coach, they want to know sometimes, is this coach assessment toolbox lined up with the ones that we use in our corporation? What's been their training? Are they certified? Where did they get trained as a coach? Are they certified by ICF or other agencies? So these are all things you can ask or consider when you're looking for a coach. You can also ask for a sample session. Is the chemistry right? So some HR department, when they hire a coach, they'll request 2 or 3 coaches to interview with the coachee to see if there's the correct chemistry and the correct alignment. And the coachee, the client, will choose, after having interviewed 1 or 2 or 3, which one they feel that would work the best for them. Again, the coaching can be, you want to make sure that there's trust in the coaching engagement and that both parties, coachee and coach, feel comfortable working together. So the chemistry, the relationship is very important. Next, somebody was asking about the International Federation of Coaching Organizations website. Here are a different organization where you can start looking for a coach. Out and Equal is in the process of pulling together a list of coaches available for LGBTQ for their members and for professionals. The International Federation of Coaches has a list of coaches available on their website. Same thing with Worldwide Association of Business Coaches. The Board Certified Coach is another organization agency that you can look to. Professional Coaches, Advisors, and Mentors, and the Gay Coaches Alliance. And like I said, these are some of the organizations and agencies, and there's more international agencies, organizations that are also out there and that are also in the process of forming. There's also countries, organizations, specific countries, organizations where you can also find a specific coach for you. Trying to see if there's anything else here. Okay. So that's it for this one.
Okay, Lynn, and I'll take it back on that. One of the things we wanted to talk about, we've been growing the relationship. Lynn mentioned that we're trying to do a coaching network and program started. This workshop that Lynn and Terry and Tim did at the summit was highly well-attended, well-rated, and so there's a lot of interest in there. I know I've had a couple conversations online as we've been going through the call of folks who are hearing this, not only within the LGBT community, but business-wise, that this is a big area. So we're actually going to do a 3-part webinar webinar series starting in June. It's going to be on June 5th, 12th, and 19th, and it's going to run at 1 p.m. Pacific on those days. Registration will be open next month, but it's going to expand this kind of discussion about theory, process, the models of coaching, what that looks like in the first session. Part 2 is going to talk much more about application and practice, including exercises and assessments. We're hoping to do some short assessments so that you can get a feel for what that is, and basically being able to take the next steps in getting started on this. And then the third session will be more coaching demonstrations, resources, selecting a coach, and maybe even doing some of the interviews, role-playing, some of that aspects. What we're looking at is after the webinar, those 3 sessions, which will be part of our Out and Equal University program, they're looking for opportunities to do coaching, which could be funded by your workplace if that's part of your work goals and development goals, that you're self-funded, you want to develop your own career and you're doing this on your own, group coaching and individual coaching options. So we're kind of developing this concept. And we want to get some feedback from you, since you're here on this webinar today, about what you're looking for and what you'd like to see. So we're going to do a couple more polls. So come on back from all that multitasking that you're kind of doing and participate here in our polls. And selecting the first question, it says, what do you want to cover in this webinar and coaching opportunity? And select all that apply there for you. You can select those answers and then hit submit. And you'll be able to see your answers there. And again, the options are talking about the theory, process, and models of coaching, the exercises, the application and practice and assessments, coaching demonstrations and resources. Are you interested in group coaching, individual coaching? And again, you can select all that apply. Executive coaching, leadership coaching, coaching that's covered by your workplace. Are you in a position where that is? And Jack sent me a message on how did I know that we were all multitasking. I just know. I can see through the computer. And if you're coaching by self-funded on that. So we see here we've got a pretty good mix, what folks are looking for. Definitely high up in the theory and the application and process, the assessments, about 50% looking at that. Coaching demonstrations and resources, about 65%. Group coaching, 26%, much more interested in the individual coaching, about 51%. Executive coaching, about 22%. Leadership coaching, 51%. And we do have about 40% that have coaching covered by their workplace, and about 38% that coaching is self-funded. So now what I want to ask a question is talking about just the webinar, just the 3-part webinar that we would do. What's the investment that you're interested in making for that 3-part webinar? How much are you willing to pay for that as we talk about a tight economy and what we need to do and what the right pricing is for this? And again, these are participatory kind of workshops that we're working on. And let's see, we've got about 50 individuals on the call right now, and I've got about 20 responses in right now. And we're seeing in the results, make sure you hit submit so that we get those answers in. We see that we've got about 50% looking at a price range for the webinar between $91 and $150, some less than $90. I know when we do these webinars, we do get the opportunity to do government nonprofit pricing, and we do have some scholarships available, especially if you're developing and moving your career that way, so we can do that. And a few looking at $151 to $300. So we've got almost everybody in on the responses now. So that's the webinar. Now let's talk about after the class. So we'd like to be able to do some coaching after that. And if you'd be interested in connecting with some of the coaches, you've met Lynn and Terry already. Tim, when he gets back from his cruise, will be able to give you some more insights. And they're developing coaches who can speak to you in some of those specialty areas. So let's now look at the question about what you are interested in investing for the additional coaching sessions, either group or individual. How much would you be willing to pay for those options? And again, we're looking at probably having a series of options of group or individual, 3 sessions, 6 sessions. I know one of the questions that was asked was how often do you do this coaching? I know it Terry's answers was it varies anywhere from once a week to once a month, and so we're looking at getting a startup session to let you actually go through and experience some coaching to do that, and we'll kind of set up that model based on what you select and the price range that we're looking at to do that. So we can do that and work on that. Looks like we've got about half the participants who voted on this one. And the one option I didn't leave was being able to not take that and not an interest in doing any additional coaching, just getting the theory. But it looks like right now we've got about 68% are thinking less than 250, about 23% 251 to 500, about 7 or 8% 500 to 750, and about 3% who are willing to pay more than 1,000. Some of that in executive coaching, the numbers definitely go up. And again, we're looking for some options with that. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into some questions and take a look at some of the things that came up. I think we've answered a couple of the questions, but we did get one in from Janice about being a trans candidate. Means your gender background will always come out during the interview. Some thoughts how you would coach the best steps and how to do that and how to deal with that? What would be your feedback on that, Terry or Lynn? There you go, Lynn.
No, go ahead, Terry.
Oh, so could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, basically talking about with gender identity, being transgender, what's some of the highlights that you can talk about that you might coach in those areas?
Right. So I think that gender identity, most people deal with transition issues, whether it be thinking about coming out on the job, when to come out, how to deal with the transition. And obviously at some point you have to come out. And I saw one of the questions in the chat room was to look at, how do you deal with being a transgender in a job interview. It's a very complex situation which takes more than probably just a couple minutes answer. But there are a lot of things to consider, because even if you are in stealth mode, folks with today's technology, there's a lifetime of records, whether it be your credit report, which a lot of companies now pull, or your Social Security information. They will easily, employers do find out if you've had a previous name change from, a male to female name or vice versa. So it's one of those things that you need to be prepared with an answer that you're comfortable with, that you believe that the employer will respect. So having a coach work with you on developing an answer and practicing that in an interview, in a mock interview with the coach, can be really valuable. So those are some of the things that I would consider thinking about in answer to the question.
Sounds good. I know, Lynn, you just answered Lisa directly on her question, but let's ask it so folks can hear your response on that. And many people understand the term coach in relation to sports. In sports, there are various coaching styles. Many coaches are very tough on their coachees. Would you, and if so, how would you compare this to corporate coaching? Are there any similarities?
Yeah, I do think there's a lot of similarities, and even in the organization I'm part of, like the consulting psychology organization that has a lot of coaches, some of our colleagues are sports psychologists and sports coaches. And part of the similarities has to do with you're targeting goals. You're trying to achieve certain specific goals. Now, physically, that's different. There's a mental component, a physical component for sports psychology. Definitely for any leader, I think there's definitely an energy component. What's the capacity of the individual, and how much are they willing to invest in getting to their goals? In terms of the similarity around toughness, that has a lot more to do. I feel as a coach, I get tough with my client around having the courage to kind of share with them, here is how you're being perceived. Here is where, here is your impact, the impact you're having as a leader. Now, if this is not giving you the results you want, and people believe that the perception is that you're not getting the results, you're not meeting your goals or you're not getting results. I see my job as a coach making sure that the individual I'm coaching is aware of what's their impact and what do they want to achieve, and if they're not achieving it, what needs to change. So that's where the toughness comes in. But in the end, it's the coachee that chooses if they want to change or not change, and if they want to work towards getting those goals. So a lot of it has to do with awareness and the willingness to work through to get the results they want. So sometimes it's not toughness that's required in working with the coachee. It's more taking the time to understand and deconstruct what's going on and getting in their way, or what other behaviors they could do to get to where they want.
Excellent. That sounds good, Lynn. Thank you. Terry, I see you're kind of chatting with Greg a little bit there, but let's ask his question as well in terms of exploring an encore career, which you kind of mentioned what comes next. And I think his question is directed toward about being a coach. And his question is, so how is the field? Is it overcrowded? Are there lots of opportunities? Is it a good growth opportunity for a next career engagement, looking at coaching and going into that field?
Sure. We can speak a little bit about that. Sherpa Consulting and Coaching just released their research report. They do an annual study of the field of coaching and whether it's growing, what the current salaries are of coaches. So if you're interested in learning more about what's actually happening in the world, I encourage you to do a quick search on Sherpa and Coaching Study 2012. But I'll just give a few brief highlights of it. Yes, the coaching field is growing. There's more and more coaching programs being included in leadership development programs as just a standard package. In fact, I'm involved right now in several of those. And I know Lynn has in the past as well, and probably currently. So yeah, as you can see, Out and Equal is looking at having coaching being part of their standard offerings as well. So it's growing everywhere you look, especially in first world organizations. Even in Brazil, I'm seeing a lot more coaching. I have colleagues down there as well, and in China. So everywhere you look, there's more and more opportunity. It does require quite a bit of investment, though. It's not something you can immediately just leave your corporate career and suddenly be a coach. It usually takes a year of training, usually at either a university or with a professional organization. And the International Coach Federation has a lot of great information on their website that I would refer you to take a look at on how to move into the field of coaching.
That's great. Lynn, anything else that you'd like to add on that?
No, I think definitely, if you're coming from HR, you may already have some of the training around coaching. The other piece I want to say is that some corporations have internal coaching program, like Terry mentioned, and some corporations even send some of their employees to get trained in specific programs around coaching. So sometimes the training can happen internally for you. I'd say shop around if you're going to look for that it's a coach or that it's a training coaching program before you make your decision.
Sounds good. Sean had a question. As a coach, would you recommend that someone come out at work where they're not protected by state law? And if not, what would you recommend for this person to do?
I think what's fascinating for LGBTQA is the different areas you have to look at yourself and in terms of your relationship and also even with your coach. And those are the things like policies and state laws and knowing your company, knowing if you can reach out to somebody internally in the company that will support you, and be able to answer questions around policy and safety and security. When we were doing work on ERGs and the development of ERGs and the where they were at in terms of their own development, it was very much tied to where is your company and the culture you're at in terms of what's possible in that company or not. And so the first level is always safety and security. And I would say if I was in a specific company, I would want to know and understand what are my rights, what are the state law, and how safe I am first. And I would want support internally at that company. I'm not sure I would answer you directly in terms of coming out or not coming out before knowing more of the circumstances that you find yourself in, the state you find yourself in, and the politics and the policies in the organization you're in.
Yep. So Lynn, can I just add a few things to what you said?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so the word advice, it's an interesting word. Actually, the field of coaching tends to avoid advice. Part of the ethics and standards of the International Coach Federation says that we generally don't provide advice. We might brainstorm with you options, but really the client is the one that makes their own decision. So what's powerful with coaching in terms of exploring identity management and disclosure is that you can then think about all the questions that you might want to answer. And Lynn outlined a number of really great ones. You know, what's it like not only legally in your state, but where are you in a small town, a big town? Do you have a support structure around you? What's your particular employer have in terms of policies? What's the work climate for LGBT people? You know, what are the impacts that you might have on your family and friends? Are you married? You know, will it impact your partner or your children? There's just so many different factors to consider, and a coach can really help you explore all of those and think through it. But a coach would likely never give you an advice and tell you what to do.
That's a good comment. And Jack made a comment about, as an executive sponsor, that many people who hire gay and straight alike are thrilled to have the diversity of LGBT employees. And so not assuming that being LGBT makes the job harder or the interview harder. And for many, hiring it's a plus, and doing some of that research is important. I know Christina also made a comment about being able to use this coaching, mentoring, career advising as another option, getting ERGs engaged with their LGBTQA membership base. And that's a great idea in having these resources. A lot of times we suggest taking this town call and maybe at your next ERG meeting, you know, going through it and having a discussion and adding it into your plans. And I know Nancy Mace is on the call as well as our new Director of Community Empowerment, and she can also help about how can we get these resources out to the ERGs. So definitely a great idea with that. We're kind of running a little bit long on time here, so I want to make sure we get any time for your closing comments. We'll get your contact information out. So Terry, last thoughts?
I just want to thank everyone for participating today and your interest in coaching. And feel free to reach out. We'll be providing our contact information for both Lynn and I later. So feel free, if you have questions, send us emails, or feel free to set up some time to talk further.
Same here. Very glad to have you all participate and bring in questions. And I just feel like this is the beginning of more dialogues on this. And the more we can be of help to any of you in terms of your career and your success, we'll be glad to help.
Excellent. I want to thank both of you for your expertise and Tim for adding in his information as well as we go with that, and all of you for great questions and great discussions. When I close out the website today, there's a short survey that you can go to, and you can also at any time consider a donation to Out and Equal if you get a chance. I'm seeing lots of chats going back and forth here, and we'll make sure we keep track of that. Hope you'll join us on our next town call, which is March 29th, on leveraging LGBT marketing data to build your business case. And hopefully we'll see you at our Executive Forum, at the Global Summit, at the Workplace Summit as well. If you need any more information on this, the recording should be up on this session in a day or so, up on the website for the town call, and we will talk to you very soon. So thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll see you next month.